The town of Dusty Creek, Texas, held its orphan auction on the first Saturday of every month. It was not called an orphan auction. It was called a placement fair, which was the kind of name that made a difficult thing sound like a pleasant one. Children who had been brought in by the county, from failed homesteads, from dead parents, from situations that the county had determined required intervention, were presented to the townspeople, who could take them on as workers or wards in exchange for a small fee that covered the county's administrative costs. Most of the children were gone within the first hour. The young ones went first, the small, round-faced ones that women with empty arms reached for without thinking. Then the boys of working age, taken by ranchers and farmers who needed hands, and whose only question was whether the boy could lift and follow directions. It was 1,876 and September, and the sun was doing what the Texas sun does in September, insisting. Caleb Horne stood at the back of the crowd with his hat in his hands, and no particular intention of being there at all. He was 38 years old, a cattle hand without a permanent position, with a horse and a bedroll, and the particular economy of a man who has learned to need very little, because needing very little is easier than needing things you don't have. He was in Dusty Creek for 2 nights, passing through on his way to a ranch job in New Mexico that might or might not still be available when he got there. He had walked past the placement fair on his way to the general store. He had stopped because of the girl. She was standing at the end of the line of children, the last one, which told its own story. She was perhaps 14 years old, though she was tall enough to be taken for older, very tall, nearly as tall as most of the men in the crowd, with the particular awkwardness of someone who has grown faster than the world has adjusted to. Dark hair and 2 practical braids. A plain gray dress that was too short because she had outgrown it and nobody had replaced it. Her hands, which were large for a girl her age, were folded in front of her with a composure that did not match her situation. She was watching the crowd with dark, serious eyes that were doing the same thing Caleb's eyes did in unfamiliar situations. Taking stock, noting exits, preparing for outcomes. He had watched 4 families approach her and turn away. Not rudely, the territory had manners of a kind, but with the particular deflection of people who had come for something specific, and this was not it. Too tall, too old, too serious. Not the child they had pictured. The girl watched each family go without expression, which was worse, somehow, than if she had looked disappointed. Caleb was still standing there when the county man, a thin fellow named Greer with a ledger, came to the end of the line and looked at the girl, and looked at his ledger, and looked at Caleb. "You interested?" Greer said, not hopefully, more the way a man closes out the last item on a list. Caleb looked at the girl. The girl looked at Caleb. "What's her name?" Caleb said. "Rose," Greer said. "Rose Danner. Father died on the road from Kansas, mother gone before that. No other family located." "How old?" 14, nearly 15. Caleb looked at his hat, then at the girl named Rose Danner, who was looking at him with those taking stock eyes, and who had not, in the entirety of his observation, shown fear or pleading, only assessment. $2, he said. $2, Greer confirmed. Caleb reached into his pocket. He paid the $2. He was not entirely sure, in the moment of paying them, what he was doing, or why. He had no home to take her to. He had a job in New Mexico that might not exist. He was 38 years old and had no experience with children and no particular qualifications for the responsibility he had just acquired. Rose Danner stood beside him while Greer filled out the paperwork, and when it was done, she picked up the small bag at her feet. It was very small, which told him everything about what she owned, and looked at him. "Where are we going?" she said. Her voice was level, no tremor. The question of someone who intends to know the facts of their situation. "New Mexico," he said. "I have work there. Maybe." "Maybe," she repeated. "It's what I've got," he said. She looked at him for a moment. Then she nodded once, the nod of someone who has evaluated the available options and made a decision. "All right," she said. They walked to where his horse was tied. He looked at the horse, then at Rose, who was nearly as tall as he was and who was carrying a bag that weighed almost nothing. "You ride?" he said. "My father taught me," she said. "Then we'll manage," he said. They rode 2 days to the New Mexico border, Caleb on his horse and Rose on a mule he traded for at the livery in Dusty Creek, exchanging his spare saddle for the animal and a day's feed, which left him with less than he'd started with, but which was the necessary arithmetic of the situation. Rose rode well. Her father had taught her right. She sat easy, and she didn't fight the animal, and she read the terrain the way someone reads it when they've spent time outdoors with people who knew what they were doing. They talked in the way of people who are sharing a road and have nothing to pretend about. She told him about her father, a man named George Danner, who had been a wheat farmer in Kansas until the farm failed, and who had loaded what remained onto a wagon and headed for Texas with the particular optimism of a man who believes the next place will be better. He had been, she said, a good man. Not lucky, but good. "And your mother?" Caleb said. "She died when I was 7, Rose said. "Fever." "I'm sorry," he said. "I barely remember her," she said, not with coldness, with the honest assessment of a girl who has been without her mother long enough that the loss has changed shape. "I remember her hands. She had good hands." Caleb said nothing to that. After a while, she said, "What about you?" He told her, not everything, but the honest summary. He had grown up in Tennessee, had come west at 20, had worked cattle for 18 years with no fixed address and no family of his own. Had been married once, briefly, to a woman named Helen, who had died of cholera in 1869, along with the child she was carrying. A child who would have been, by now, almost exactly Rose's age. He had not said this to anyone in 7 years. He was not sure why he said it now, to a 14-year-old on a mule in the Texas desert. Rose listened without interrupting. When he was done, she was quiet for a moment. "I'm sorry about your wife," she said. "And your child." "Thank you," he said. "How old would they have been?" she said. "The child." He thought about it. 14, maybe 15 by now. Rose looked at the road ahead. "Same as me," she said. "Same as you," he said. They rode in silence for a while after that. The kind of silence that is not empty. The job in New Mexico existed. A rancher named Aldous Webb, outside the town of Cimarron, needed a capable hand for the fall cattle work, branding, fence repair, moving the herd to winter pasture. The pay was fair, and there was a bunkhouse and meals included. There was, as it happened, no provision in this arrangement for a teenage girl. Caleb explained the situation to Webb, plainly, because he had no other way. And Webb, who was a practical man of 50 with a wife named Clara and a ranch that had been operating for 20 years, looked at Rose for a long moment. Rose looked back at him with her taking stock eyes. "She work?" Webb said. "Ask her," Caleb said. Webb looked at Rose. "Can you cook?" he said. "Yes," Rose said. "Garden?" "Yes." "You afraid of cattle?" "No." Webb looked at his wife, Clara, who had appeared in the doorway of the ranch house during this exchange, and who was looking at Rose with an expression that Caleb recognized. the expression of a woman who sees something and has already decided. "She can sleep in the house," Clara Webb said. "We have the room." And that was that. The fall work was good work, the kind that fills the days completely and leaves a satisfying tiredness at the end of them. Caleb worked the cattle with Webb and 2 other hands, and in the evenings he came into the ranch house where Clara had supper on, and where Rose had, he discovered, been useful in ways that Clara was not shy about describing. "That girl," Clara said one evening, "can cook better than I can." "Don't tell my husband." Caleb looked at Rose, who was setting the table with the efficiency of someone who has been doing it all her life. "Where did you learn?" he said. "My father couldn't cook," she said. "Someone had to." She said it without self-pity, which was one of her consistent qualities. She narrated her life factually, without editorializing, which was either a temperamental thing or something she had learned from circumstances, and which he found, increasingly, to be one of the most restful qualities a person could have. He had begun, without planning to, looking for her when he came in at the end of the day. Not with anxiety, just the way you look for a thing that you have learned to expect. The specific dark braids, the specific way she stood, which was straight and unself-conscious in the way of someone who had decided that being tall was simply a fact and not a problem. She had, in turn, begun saving him the seat at the table nearest the window, which was the best one, without being asked. These were small things, but small things, accumulated, are what most of life is made of. The trouble came from town. There was a boy in Cimarron, 16 years old, the son of a merchant, with the confidence of someone who has always had enough and has never been required to develop any other qualities. He had seen Rose in town on a supply run and made the kind of comments that boys like him make, specifically about her height, specifically intended to be heard. Rose had said nothing. She had completed the supply run and come back to the ranch. Caleb found out from the Webb's younger hand, who had been present, and who told it with the indignation of a 19-year-old who has a clearer sense of justice than the world usually credits him with. He went to find Rose. She was in the garden, the Webb's kitchen garden, which she had taken over with Clara's enthusiastic permission, kneeling in the dirt with the focus of someone doing work that requires attention. He sat on the fence. "I heard about town," he said. "It's nothing," she said, not dismissively, just accurately. "It's not nothing," he said. "It's not new," she said. "People have said things about how I look since I was 10 years old." She kept working. "I'm still here." He looked at her. "Does it bother you?" he said. She sat back on her heels and looked at the garden for a moment. "It used to," she said honestly. "Now I mostly think, those people don't know me. What they say is about what they see. What they see isn't what I am." Caleb looked at her for a long moment. "That's," he said, and then stopped. "What?" she said. "That's a hard thing to know at 15, he said. 14, she said. "Still 14 for 3 more weeks. "At 14, then," he said. She almost smiled. Actually smiled. The quick, real smile that appeared occasionally and that changed her whole face into something younger and less defended. "Did you go to town and say something to him?" she said. "I'm considering it," he said. "Don't," she said. "It'll make it a story. Right now, it's nothing. Leave it nothing." He looked at her. "All right," he said. He left it nothing. But he went to town the next day for supplies and had a quiet word with the merchant, the boy's father, that was not a threat and was not confrontational, and that the merchant understood completely, and which resulted in the boy having a different kind of day than he was used to. Rose never knew about this, or if she did, she never said. The fall work ended in November. Webb paid him well and offered him winter work. Less, but enough. And Caleb said he would think about it, which was honest, because he was thinking about something he had not expected to be thinking about, and that required thought. He had $2 left of the small amount he had when he arrived in Dusty Creek. The rest had gone to the mule, to supplies, to the small things that two people on a road require. He was not poor. Webb had paid him. But he was also not a man with a plan, and winter was coming, and Rose Danner was 14, and he had no home to offer her, and no certainty about what came next. He sat by the fire on a November evening after supper, the ranch house quiet, Clara and Webb retired, Rose across the table mending a dress that had developed a problem at the hem with the focused attention she gave everything. He watched her work. He thought about Helen. He thought about the child who would have been Rose's age. He thought about 7 years of moving through the world with the particular lightness of a person who has nothing to lose because they have decided not to have anything. He thought about $2 and a girl at the end of a line. "Rose," he said. She looked up. "I need to tell you something," he said. "All right," she said. She set down the mending. When something required attention, she gave it full attention. "I don't have a home to offer you," he said. "I have a horse and wages and a good name with the ranchers in this territory. That's what I have." She was quiet, listening. "I've been thinking," he said, "that Webb might give me a permanent position, year-round. It would mean staying here in Cimarron. It would mean, if you were willing, that this could be something more fixed than it's been." "Fixed how?" she said. He looked at the fire. "I'm not your father," he said. "I know that. And I'm not proposing anything improper. You're 14 years old and I'm 38, and that's not what this is." He looked at her. "But I walked past that fair, and I stopped, and I paid $2, and I've been thinking about it ever since, and what I think is, I'd like to be responsible for you. Properly. Legally, if that's possible. If you'd want that." Rose looked at him. She had the expression she had when she was processing information, still, focused, thorough. "You want to adopt me," she said. "If you'd want that," he said. "Why?" she said. Not challengingly. She wanted the honest answer. He thought about it. "Because you're the most capable person I've spent time with in 18 years of meeting people," he said. "And because I stopped at that fair for a reason I didn't understand at the time, and I think I understand now. And because," he paused, "because I'd like to have someone to come home to. And I think you'd like to have somewhere to come home to. And I think we've been doing a reasonable version of that for the past 2 months already." Rose looked at the table for a long moment. Then she looked up. "I'd want that," she said. Aldous Webb gave Caleb the permanent position. The county in Cimarron processed the guardianship paperwork with the efficient practicality of a frontier territory that had no time for excessive complexity. Clara Webb, who had been following the situation with the satisfaction of someone watching something go right, made a cake. Rose grew another 1.5 inches in the following year, which brought her to a height that made her taller than every man on the Webb Ranch, except the largest of the hands, who was 6'4", and who treated her with the cheerful respect of someone who recognizes a peer. She was not, it turned out, too tall for the world she lived in. She was exactly right for the world she made. She learned to ride cattle work alongside Caleb, and developed a reputation in Cimarron for the kind of steady competence that gets noticed and talked about in ranch country, where competence is the primary currency. She read every book Clara Webb owned and sent away for more. She grew the kitchen garden until it was the best in the county and began, at 16, teaching the neighboring women what she knew about desert soil, which they accepted with the gratitude of people who have been wanting this information and are glad someone finally has it. At 17, she told Caleb that she intended to have her own land someday. "I know," he said. "You're not surprised," she said. "I stopped being surprised by you about a week after I met you," he said. She almost smiled. Actually smiled. Caleb Horne worked the Webb Ranch for 11 years. He was not a man given to speeches or declarations. He had said what needed saying that November evening by the fire, and had not found it necessary to add to it. But he showed up every day and did the work, and came in at the end of the day to the ranch where a tall young woman had saved him the seat by the window. And eventually, the window seat and the saving of it became something he had not had in 7 years and had stopped believing he would find again. Something to come home to. On the evening of Rose's 21st birthday, a spring evening, the New Mexico desert in bloom, she came to find him at the corral where he was finishing the evening feed. "I want to ask you something," she said. "Ask," he said. "Are you glad," she said, "that you stopped?" He looked at her. Tall, capable, 21 years old, with the same dark, serious eyes that had been taking stock of him since the first moment in Dusty Creek. "Every day," he said. "Every single day." She nodded, the nod of someone receiving information that confirms what they already knew. Then she went inside to start supper, and Caleb Horne finished the feed and stood in the corral in the spring evening and looked at the sky and thought about $2, the last $2 in his pocket on a September Saturday in Texas, and what they had bought him. Not a worker, not a ward. A family. The one he had lost, the one he hadn't known he was looking for. Found for $2 on a dusty street in a town called Dusty Creek at the end of a line, in a gray dress that was too short because nobody had thought to replace it. The best $2 he had ever spent.